Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Tracy. If you're new to the channel, this channel is usually reseller based, or I also do some farming videos pertaining to cattle, but today I'm going to do something a little different. I'm in the kitchen today and I received a recipe to make some rhubarb freezer jam. So that's what we're going to do today. So I received this recipe from an older retired gentleman that I've come to know pretty well through my township. I work a couple days a week for my township, and this gentleman comes and visits me, and we've got to know each other quite well, and he brings me little treats every once in a while. He'll bring me coffee or fruit, or he picks asparagus and things like that. And we got to talking one day about rhubarb, and I don't like rhubarb regularly. My mother makes an awesome rhubarb cake every year for my brother's birthday in May, and it is phenomenal. But other than that, I don't care for rhubarb so much. But he's like, you have to try this jam that my wife makes. So he brought me a little sample of it, and it was delicious. So he brought me the recipe, and that's what we're going to make today. And it is called Rhubarb Surprise Jam. And I did look up on the internet, and I did find a similar recipe by All Recipes. It was called Rhubarb Berry Jam. And it's very similar in ingredients, just a little bit of difference. But I'm going to make this one here because this is the one I tasted and this is the one I enjoyed. So first I got to get the rhubarb washed up a little bit and chopped up. We need 7 cups of it. So let me do that, and then we'll get started on making this. Okay, after chopping up all that rhubarb, I got just over, it's about 7.5 cups. So I'm just going to add it all because the recipe on All Recipes called for 8 cups, but this recipe calls for 7. So I figure 7.5 cups will be okay. And it's funny that it comes out. I was thinking I might have a double batch, but no. And I purchased from a local farm 2 pounds of rhubarb. So that's what we got from 2 pounds was 7.5 cups. All right. And then here I have some sugar, which we need 4 cups of sugar. And I think I'm going to go, because the all recipe called for 3 cups of sugar. This one calls for 4, so why don't we go with 3.5? So there's a half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, and 3.5. And then it says, in a large saucepan, cook rhubarb and sugar and pie filling bring to a full boil over high heat. So the pie filling is blueberry pie filling, and you're supposed to use the entire can. So we're going to add that in. And then there's one more ingredient, but that comes after this is all cooked. So I'm going to set up over by the stove, and so you can see that process. I'll be right back. Okay, like I said, this says in a large saucepan, cook rhubarb and sugar and pie filling until a full boil over high heat. Reduce the heat, simmer for 15 minutes, stirring frequently. Okay, so. I would imagine that the rhubarb produces quite a bit of liquid once it gets cooked. It smells good with that blueberry pie filling. And I'll do a time lapse here on this getting cooked down so you don't have to sit here all day watching me make this freezer jam. It's actually such a simple recipe. With it being a freezer jam, you don't have to process the jars. You can actually just freeze this in little plastic containers. I do not have any, so we are just using some jelly jars. And that'll work just fine in the freezer. All right, I'll bring you back when it's started to boil. I had some leftover blueberries from the 4th of July that weren't getting ate, so I threw those in there too. Use them up. Just getting close to boiling here. I've done a lot of canning. I've taken a couple years off from it because I had a humongous garden. And when I say humongous, I mean humongous. I had, I can't even remember, but it was like 100 plus different types of peppers and onions, and I think it was close to 200 tomato plants, and I canned, when the tomatoes started ripening, I canned for 30 days straight and stocked my pantry full of tomato products. It was amazing. It's still amazing because we're still eating on them, but I definitely needed a break from canning for a while. Plus, that season I also did applesauce and apple pie filling. So it was quite a canning season. This smells amazing. We're starting to boil finally. I don't want it to splatter, because that would be hot. Okay, now it says reduce it down to a simmer for 15 minutes. And just a reminder, in here we have 7.5 cups of chopped rhubarb, 3.5 cups of sugar, one 21-ounce can of blueberry pie filling, and just a handful of fresh blueberries. And we'll be back when this is all done. And if you are new here, I want to thank you for stopping by and checking this out. If you're a subscriber, what do you think of a video like this? Just thought I'd try it. I was making the jam anyways, so I thought I'd bring you along. And if you've tried this recipe, do you enjoy it as much as I do? Because I love it. I hope mine turns out as well as the gentleman's wife's recipe. So, oh, by the way, do you like my earrings? I thought they were pretty cool. All right, gotta stir again. We'll be back. All done. All right. And the next step, and the final step, sorry about that, is to add 2 boxes of raspberry Jello, the 3-ounce boxes. You're supposed to stir that in until dissolved, and then add it to the jars. Ooh, does that smell good? I did notice on the all recipe, online recipe, they did 1 raspberry and 1 strawberry. So I guess it's completely up to you, but I'm following this recipe that I was given. Wow, does that smell amazing? I got 8 jelly jars washed up and sterilized. Always wash your jars, even if they look clean and have been in storage. For sure, wash them. Bugs, mice, you don't want any of that in your yum yums. Okay, here we go. Let me get rid of the garbage. Some of these jelly jars are a little bit taller and some are, I got one of these little short chubby ones. Let's see what we get out of this here. Got my little handy dandy jar filler thing. And I'm gonna fill right up to the bottom. Well, I guess that one filled a little bit fuller than I wanted, but it'll be all right. I wanted to fill just to the bottom ring here. Like that. Make sure you be careful because it is screaming hot. And like I said, you can put these, just get some little plastic freezer containers and freeze it like that. Like I said, I didn't have any, so I'm using jars. And I'm just gonna put a lid and a ring on these and put them in the freezer. And this is a great opportunity to, because they're just going in the freezer and not being processed, to use used lids. You know, if you've saved some of them, you just wash them up real good and it's a perfect time to use them. They also have the plastic screw-on lids also that you can purchase. And it looks like I'm going to have more than 8 here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just find a container. And I'm going to put the rest of that in a container in the refrigerator. And then it says, what does it say here? Pour into your jars. Cool to room temperature about an hour. Cover and let stand overnight until set, but no longer than 24 hours. Refrigerate or freeze. Cover and let stand overnight. Oh, so I'm supposed to let them cool for an hour before I put lids on them. But I'm just going to use some, I don't have any used ones, so I got my lids and my rings, and I'm going to wipe each one of the rims right now, just so they're not sticky. This smells and looks amazing, folks. So I'm just gonna let these sit for an hour and go from there. So we'll see what I got left over. Let me do that first so I can see what I'm putting in the refrigerator here. I just got a Tupperware container I'll use for the rest of this. I probably would have gotten one more jelly jar, just over one more jelly jar. So that gives you an idea of how many jars or containers that you would need. And that was 2 pounds of rhubarb to this recipe I used. There we go. All right, folks, thanks so much for watching and being in the kitchen with me today. Very easy recipe for anybody to try. No canning involved. Seal them up, put them in your freezer, and enjoy some wonderful, yummy jam. And by the way, she had called this Rhubarb Surprise Jam. Let me go over the recipe one more time. 7.5 cups of chopped rhubarb, 4 cups of sugar, which I only put 3.5 in, 1 cup or 1 can, 121 ounce can of blueberry pie filling, and 2 3-ounce packages of raspberry flavored gelatin. So, alrighty folks, thanks again. Everybody have a great day. Bye! of course, the brain fart. So I'm going to set up over by the stove, and so you can see that process. I'll be right back. Meow. Meow. I probably would have gotten one more jelly jar, just over one more jelly jar. So